Go out for a few more laps. Do a little bit of riding, a little more riding in. It's been pretty nice out today so far, so see if we can have some fun here. So for this video, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a voiceover while the riding clip goes on, and just kind of talk a little bit about the YZ250 2022 in particular, and a little bit of the differences since I actually just came off of riding all the 2022 450s. I was fortunate enough to be a part of the Vital 450 shootout this last week, so I got to ride all 7 of the new 450s. And coming back, basically my buddy met me out here down in SoCal while we were on vacation at La Jolla, and brought my bike out for me so we could ride Fox Raceway 2 days back to back. So what was interesting was coming off the 450s last week, and then jumping back on my 2-stroke, and having a little bit of time too. The day prior to this video, I rode my buddy Jake's 2022 KX 450 as well, that has some suspension done, some extra triple clamps, and some bars and grips, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is stock, but getting some back-to-back comparisons was extremely helpful. Give you a little context as to me and my setup and my weight and speed and all that stuff. I'm 34 years old. I weigh 150 pounds without the gear, probably around 160 or so with full gear on. And I run, I don't know, depending on the lap in the day and my fitness, somewhere between probably a novice intermediate pace or something along those lines, or of that intermediate pace. The YZ250 2-stroke is my weapon of choice this year, just because it's fully redesigned and it is something new, a little bit updated, quite a bit updated actually. Some minimal changes, but updates are noticeable. Yeah, and they've got the new ergonomics, the flattened seat profile. Basically, they took the middle of the bike, brought it up, and took the 2 ends of the bike. Whoa, that was a crazy shot of Potter there getting a little whiskey throttle behind me, probably trying to pass me. He's a lot faster than I am. But yeah, the new ergonomics of the bike is wonderful. Feels like an updated chassis now. The new rear subframe helps. The direct intake gives you that roll on. You'll notice I'm in 3rd, rolling on out of a lot of sections that are just a little bit more maybe rougher or a little bit hairier, so that I can kind of smooth things out. And the bike has great roll on. I'm not clutching it like crazy at all, and the bike is pretty solid and feels great. So overall, the YZ250 chassis, the new 2022, feels immensely better in my opinion than the older chassis. That being said, it's still not as good as, or not as easy to ride as a new 450. So the big contrast, especially the first day out at Fox Raceway, I honestly, the biggest downside of this bike is the vibration. KTM and Husky and Gas all have a countershaft balancer, or whatever it's called, in the engine that helps with the harmonics of the engine, so that you don't get that feedback through the handlebars. The Yamaha does not have that yet, so that is a big negative downside, I'd say, that this bike has. And of course, there's not a ton of downsides, and of course it wouldn't prohibit me from buying the bike at all, but it is something that is noteworthy, as at my weight and the way that I ride, I've noticed that my hands will, after a few laps, begin to go numb in the stock suspension setting. So I did mess with and kind of dabble actually extensively with the compression, a little bit of the rebound on the front end especially, and in the rear minimally this weekend out at Fox Raceway. And this session here is after going 8 clicks softer or slower on the compression on the forks, and 3 clicks on the rear shock. So that is significant. That is probably, and you guys can comment and let me know, that's probably an indicator that it's sprung for someone a little bit heavier and or faster than I am. I know that 2022, the YZ chassis went with a stiffer spring set, so that would explain that for sure. But that is something that is definitely noteworthy for me, and someone that is around 150 pounds or so, you might see similar effects. So my hands literally would go to sleep or fall asleep after like 1 or 2 laps before I adjusted the compression. Now on this lap, or this session here, this is day 2, the compression's way slower on the rear and the front. I still get a little bit of chatter in some of the braking bumps, like right here, and like as I go around this corner, I'll show you another section where I could really feel some of the jarring is right here, kind of this quick braking chatter into corners. That's where it would be most felt through my hands and my body. So everywhere else it was pretty manageable, but just kind of get tired of all these bumps, these pre-bumps before these jumps at Fox Raceway were kind of taking a toll on me. Sections like this where you're rolling in and doubling out or tripling out, super fun. The bike is really playful and easy to ride for the most part. Cornering feels good. The front, like I said, before I slowed down the compression, it was really finicky and not very comfortable or confident inspiring. But after I did the clicks on the compression, really helped it out. So, okay, so that's the YZ. The YZ, obviously, I'm having fun on it. I'm able to put in longer motos with it. For me, running 8 to 12 minutes on most of my sessions is pretty good for my fitness and my riding abilities. You hear my baby sneeze in the background there, sorry. But I rode Jake's 450, his 22KX 450 with suspension work and some clamps and exhaust, all that fun stuff. And man, it's significantly easier to ride. I wouldn't say it's more fun, and I wouldn't say it's as engaging. It's kind of like going from an all-wheel drive twin turbo setup on a launch to an old with paddle shifters to an older manual rear-wheel drive, V8 or something like that, where you really got to play with the bike, finesse it a little bit more, quite a bit more, to get it to do what you want. But for me, it's hard. I'd probably have a 450 in the garage, probably a gas 450 and this YZ250, or maybe a gas 250 two-stroke. I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I'd put in place to really have best of both worlds. And after riding Jake's bike, I noticed through the corners it was very detached, so much so that you don't feel all the feedback coming through the front end or the rear end as much. Everything's just planted, traction is planted. The bike doesn't feel skatey or floaty. Obviously a two-stroke's going to feel more like that, which is what it's designed to do, and I like that aspect of it. But if I was out to go and ride as many laps as I can as quickly as possible, the 450 would be a clear choice for me over the YZ250 at this time. But if I were to go out like I do and just have fun, I don't race or anything, so my objective is to ride as good as I can and have as much fun as I can when I'm on the bike and get my fitness in shape, right? So the YZ250 serves that purpose tremendously. Hope this video is a little bit helpful. For me, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get suspension revalved and resprung for my weight, and take this thing back out and see what it feels like after we do those changes. So let me know if you want to hear anything else, and thanks for watching.